A story starts with a guy stating that he has decided that he will live a carefree life according to his desires and beliefs. The path of the villain. This boy, in his previous life, was a kind-hearted guy who died in an accident while trying to save a girl. He says that he was stupid for being a good person and didn't receive any reward while leading a miserable life. He died while saving his girlfriend, who had been cheating on him. But now he has been reincarnated in a different world. A world with swords and sorcery. He is now known as Augur Verret, the eldest son of the infamously corrupt Verret ducal family. He was in a dilemma when he found out that he had to become a villain. But recalling how pathetic his previous life was, he doesn't wish to go through that again. Now he can do whatever he wishes to after getting a second chance as the son of a villainous noble. He will lead his life according to his desires and do whatever pleases him. He will get cute girls to serve him, and he will have his own slaves work hard for him. At present, he makes his way to the dining room and apologizes for making his father wait. His father, Gordon Verret, is delighted to see him and asks him to join him for lunch. He says that he is impressed that Augur has been training and studying without being negligible for a single day, and is being very responsible as the successor of one of the 4 ducal families. He says that's coming naturally to him. His father, who is a feudal lord, established himself as a bad administration on purpose and acted like a fool to throw his political opponents off their guard while plotting behind the scenes. Augur is proud of his dad's villainous nature, and that's what he is aiming to become. He looks at his father with admiration and tells him that he wants to learn more from him and perform his duties properly. His father responds that he has great expectations for him and that he needs to join the Lichberg Magic Academy in order to meet the requirements to succeed him. But his father asks him what magic aptitude he has. Magic is a common technique in this world. He smiles, saying that he can't show him that in public. His father laughs, saying that's a good decision. He also adds that he can choose an attendant for himself to serve him in his dorm. Augur hesitates for a while and asks if it's okay for him to choose by himself. His father says of course he can, as it's also a part of the training to identify good human resources. But if he prefers slaves, he can buy them too. Augur devilishly smiles and thinks to himself that it was the moment he had been waiting for all along. He finally gets the opportunity to get himself a talented subordinate to support his goals of becoming a perfect villain. But he thinks it would be boring if the associate was just talented. He will intentionally find someone with a strong sense of justice and make her do evil deeds. That will be his truest evil form. He stands up and says he will be leaving. His father advises him to be careful on his way. He says he already has someone he has been keeping an eye on. He is on his way, determined to pick her up. His first accomplice. He leaves for the outskirts of the royal capital, Walshua City. In that city, a group of people are gathered and cheering inside an arena for a girl. The girl has a sword in her hand, along with 2 men behind her. Her opponent, a man in armor, shouts at her and rushes to strike. The girl declares that she will cut him down this time. The man lunges forward with a menacing shout, his sword aimed at her. With lightning-fast reflexes, she dodges his attack and extends her hand, conjuring a shimmering beam of magic that unleashes a spell, a laser slicing through the man's arm. And as the defeated man cries in pain, clutching his severed limb, she comes forward and asks him to shut up, saying that he should be quiet in his last moments. She pulls her sword and stabs it inside his mouth, putting an end to his misery. She doesn't get a single minute to enjoy her win, as she is called by a guard, who addresses her as Chris and tells her that a guest has been waiting for her. She is surprised to hear the word guest. The guard apologizes to Augur for keeping him waiting. Augur, with a noble tone, tells him he did good work. Chris is stunned to see a kid waiting for her, and the guard rudely orders her to watch her tone as she is talking to an heir of the noble family. But before he could reveal who Augur is, he is interrupted by Augur, asking him to leave as he wants to talk to her alone. The guard obeys him, leaves, and says he won't allow anyone to enter the room, so that he can do whatever he wishes to. Augur says the guard misunderstood him because he didn't come to buy a woman. He addresses her as commander of the Holy Knights, Chris Ragnica, as her eyes go wide, wondering how he knows about her true identity. She yells at him, asking him how he knows the truth about her, and notices a short sword he is carrying with him with the Verret family crest. She realizes he is a noble belonging to the Verret family and might be Augur, the elder son. She stares at him while also grasping that the Verret family is in charge of diplomacy and intelligence gathering. He asks her not to stare at him, but he understands she can't help her gaze either. The ones who framed her and drove her away from the Holy Knights were also nobles like him. She says he is absolutely right that the rotten nobles were behind her banishment. She recounts that, as the head of the Holy Knights, she was on a mission to find a major source who was involved in human trafficking. She gave her findings and evidence to the king, requesting that he capture the noble responsible for human trafficking. But instead, the nobles came and interfered, saying that the king shouldn't listen to the girl's words, as she comes from a commoner background and became a knight. She, in despair, cries out that she is being framed. But the nobles had already covered up their tracks regarding their unlawful activities and made Chris look like a criminal. The king stripped away her rank, including her position as a holy knight, and sent her to that prison. Since then, she has held a grudge against the nobles. She grabs Augur by his collar, asking him what he wants from her. She says the nobles are responsible for making her fight in an arena. Augur, in a cold voice, says that he is disappointed in her and asks her where her pride as a holy knight went. And she replies that she is no longer a holy knight. He stands up and says that he liked her when she was a holy knight, that he admired her and how she encouraged her comrades, and that she never lost hope against evil. Chris' eyes brim with tears as he continues by saying that she had a greater sense of justice than everybody else. However, she stops him, stating that she has become less of a person and that she is no longer the same, needing to make money using the same vile approach as those around her. She says that Chris Ragnica had already died back at the kingdom. He says that she is right that Chris Ragnica has died, but she can just restart from the beginning. He puts forward his hand, asking her to join him, as he would make her shine brightly again. Chris, with tears in her eyes, holds his hands. He vows that he will carve out a place where her justice can shine again, while putting his sword on her shoulder, honoring her. He asks if she will follow him, and she nods, saying that she vows to become his sword. Augur is happy that he has finally achieved his goal, and his smile of adoration turns into a malicious one. He says to himself that she must be naive to trust him and even bother to cry, and that he'll stick to his own set of 3 evil clauses. The first is that he must live without compromising his beliefs. The second is to polish his character, and the third is to not let anyone else decide his future. All of what he was saying to Chris was actually a ruse to make her his eternal slave, and he is glad that he could do it perfectly and is impressed by himself. He asks Chris to come with him, as he would like to introduce her to his father. She readily agrees, but before they can move on, he asks her to change her name, as she is still regarded as a criminal in public. He suggests giving her the name Alice. Chris starts crying in disbelief that her lord bestowed a precious name upon her, and she is touched. Before leaving, she asks Augur if she could visit the arena for one last time. Augur responds that he doesn't mind, but wonders what she is going to do. She says she needs to do something before leaving the place. He lets her do her business as he walks outside, thinking she might be retrieving her weapons. He mockingly laughs that she can take as many weapons as she wants, but in the end, she will be wielding her swords for his villainous goals rather than her sword of justice. He comes to the arena looking for Alice and asking her to come with him now for his vengeful goals. But he abruptly stops and is stunned to see hordes of dead bodies piled upon each other with blood gushing through them, filling the floors of the arena. Chris says her preparations are done. He is amazed to see it and thinks that he indeed selected the strongest pawn to take him forward in his goal. Chris explains that she needed to kill all the villains in that arena to let the people know of her justice. she now calls herself Alice, stating that from now on, she will serve her sword for him for eternity. He stares at her and thinks that the road to becoming a villain has become relentlessly steep, even from the very first step. Augur finally arrives at the Royal Magic Academy Lichberg, the best magic academy in the country, attended by the students from the noble family. He found the perfect place to create a foundation for his goals. Alice is accompanying him too, wearing a noble maid uniform. He looks at her and thinks he also has the most powerful pawn with him, who is going to stay with him from now on. Alice states that the school uniform suits him very well and promises she will do her best to fulfill her role as his attendant. He thanks her. Other students who are walking by overhear Alice addressing Augur and wonder if it is the same Augur from the Verret family. Alice says Augur has already become the center of attention. But his reaction doesn't change, as he knows what others are actually saying about him. Two kids discuss among themselves that Augur is the son of the villain lord and a loser, and he probably used his family connection to get accepted into the school. Alice gets angry and pulls out her sword, yelling at them to be prepared to die. The kids are scared as Augur asks her to stop. He can understand that the Verret family is notoriously known for their villainous activities, and he expected them to talk badly about him. But since he has Alice by his side, his next goal is to get girlfriends. But looking at Alice, he states that the situation isn't looking very promising for him. He wonders if he should intervene, and he suddenly hears someone calling for him. He turns around to see that it's a girl. The girl, in disbelief, stares at him and says that it's been a while since they met, and she wonders if he remembers her. Alice looks at her attire, wonders if it's a man, and then, observing closely, realizes that it's a woman. But Augur is blankly staring at her. Her feather-shaped hair clip reminds him of her identity. It's Karen Levitsenka, the only daughter from the Levitsenka family, one of the 4 great ducal families, and also his childhood ex-girlfriend. He approaches her and says that it's wonderful to meet her, and if he isn't wrong, they last met when they were 5. Karen blushes and says he really does remember her. He responds that he does, and the hair clip she is wearing was his present to her. She says she still treasures it. He introduces her to Alice, and likewise he introduces Karen as his ex-fiancée. Alice is confused to hear the word ex, as he explains that they were engaged. But the engagement was cancelled because of some problems on his part. Karen interferes and says he is wrong, as Augur is a perfect man, clearly still having feelings for him. He asks Alice if she knows that magic is the most important part of this world. Alice says she does know that. He confesses that he doesn't have any aptitude for magic, and in simple words, he can't use magic. Alice is stunned to hear this confession, as Augur says that despite belonging from a noble family, it's his fatal flaw that he can't use magic. And that's the reason the Levitsenka family hates him. Alice says that's not true, and Augur was always hers. But before she could finish her sentence, Augur asks her to leave the topic and get back to the school, or else they will miss their entrance ceremony. He thinks that he didn't expect to see someone he hadn't met in a long time and wonders why she is dressed like a boy, concluding she might have her own circumstances. They reach the auditorium of the school, where they are greeted by the headmaster of the school. She says that after the introduction ceremony, they will be assigned a room, and they will carry their luggage to their respective rooms. Augur hears whispers around him, talking about the rumor of Augur attending the school and not having any magic aptitude, even though he is a noble. He wonders if it's really strange that so many people are talking about him. But suddenly Alice brings out her sword, drawn towards those boys, asking if they are the ones who were talking about Augur. Alice explains that even if they are still in the dark about what an amazing guy he is, it is quite annoying to hear the negative remarks. As Alice carries Augur's bags on her head after the ceremony and makes her way to his chamber, he states that, as she previously stated, the other students don't know anything about him, and that's why he will allow them to say whatever they want to. But soon they will look at him with envious eyes and ask her to wait for that moment. She agrees, and he orders her that, for now, she will help him find girlfriends. They start strolling around the school, amazed at how large the school is. Augur realizes why it's been called the best magic school of the country. But he is looking for girlfriends around the school, but doesn't find a single decent person. Instead, he notices 3 bullies who are harassing a single girl. She is getting bullied for being a commoner and getting enrolled in a magic school. Alice, looking at Augur, asks him if she should help her. The bullies continue to harass the girl, saying her gaze is disgusting, and they will teach her some manners. But Alice brings out her ready to defend her. But Augur stops her, saying that she is his target, and he needs to show his cooler side to her. He jumps in front of the bullies and swiftly kicks them, knocking them down. One of them, while standing up, yells at him, asking if he knows who he is. Augur says he is Luark Bumbold, the second son of Count Bumbold, and he seems to take pride in his social status. He formally introduces himself in a calm voice, saying that he is Augur Verret of the Verret's ducal family, and Luark is definitely beneath him. He asks them to run away. The bullies, with a bit of intimidation, ran away, saying they would remember this. Alice is surprised and says she didn't know he knew taijutsu. He, being modest, says it was nothing. He approaches the scared girl, reaching out to her asking if she is okay. In his thoughts, he knows why he wants this girl to be his subordinate, and that's because of her huge bosoms. She stands up and thanks him, her eyes welling with tears. Saying she is a first-year student and goes by Mashiro Lich, she states she is running late for her introduction. But his gaze is stuck on her huge bosoms, wondering if the buttons on the shirt will burst off. He realizes he is acting like a creep and should be more gentlemanly. He points out that she has some dirt on her skirts and offers his handkerchief to clean it off. She looks at him amusingly and asks him if it's okay for him to offer his handkerchief. He says he doesn't mind, and she promises she will wash it and give it back to him. She leaves, saying she will meet him at the new student's welcome party. But he devilishly laughs, stating in his mind that everything is going according to plan, and her expressions have made it clear that her affection for him is skyrocketing. And if he is the only noble who treats her well, unlike the other noble kids who bullied her, it won't take long for her to fall for him. He suggests to Alice that they should also go to the party hall. He turns around to see Alice, amazed, claiming that Augur is indeed a noble person. He decides he needs to leave Alice in the corridor. Augur and Alice visit the party later, where it's crowded with noble family kids and their aides. Alice brings him drinks and notices a large gathering at the corner. Augur says the crowd is centered around the crown prince, and the next king, Arnia Rondism, also Karen's present fiancé. Alice is visibly angry about Karen's family calling for her engagement with Augur to get her engaged with Arnia. He explains that he can't help it because he doesn't have any magic aptitude after all. She notices that the crowd around the prince is mostly ladies and calls him a jerk. Augur wonders why she is getting mad at him as she rushes to meet Arnia. She comes face to face with Arnia as he asks her if she has any business with him. She wonders if he noticed her intentions of killing and stares at him. Augur intervenes and apologizes for her behavior, saying that she is with him. Arnia looks at him and, with a hint of sarcasm, says he has heard a lot about him, the unqualified student with no magic aptitude. Alice gets frustrated and is about to react, but Augur asks her to stand back. He apologizes again for delaying meeting him and introduces himself, saying he is honored that the prince has heard about him. Arnia says he is popular after all. Karen, seeing that her current fiancé is talking to her ex, comes towards them and asks what they are discussing. But Arnia interrupts her with a stern look and a crude question that leaves her puzzled as she answers that it's nothing. Alice understands the reason Karen is acting strangely in front of them, as even though she is engaged to the prince, she still has feelings for Augur. Augur, looking at the situation, says he will be going now, wondering what embarrassment he would cause now. Arnia says he will be looking forward to meeting him again. Arnia leaves, asking Karen to join him. Alice comes to Augur, saying that with her social status, Karen can't do anything more than apologize. Augur is teary-eyed, thinking that it must be very frustrating for Karen. As Karen is walking past him, he says to Alice that he can understand how Karen is feeling right now. Alice, with tears in her eyes, turns around and says he is really an amazing person. And now they are looking down on him because of his lack of magic aptitude. But that doesn't matter as he is still a great person. Augur says her kind words do make him happy and are interesting. But they have one big misunderstanding about him and devilishly laugh. Alice notices and thinks that Augur just changed his persona within a split second. Suddenly, a boy comes rushing to them, asking him if he is Augur, as he has brought a letter for him. Augur is confused that he is getting a letter and opens and reads it. He is left stunned to find out it's a love letter from Mashiro, thanking him for saving her earlier and requesting that he meet her in the backyard of the school. Mashiro is delighted to meet Augur, and she thanks him again for saving her. She explains the reason she called him there, and she holds his face in an attempt to kiss him. As she moves closer, Augur wakes up from his dream, screaming that it's too early. He realizes that he was dreaming as Alice barges inside his room, asking if anything's wrong or if any enemy has attacked him. He grins, thinking that dreams might become reality soon. He gets ready, properly dressed, saying that he didn't expect Mashiro to give him a love letter so early. He wonders if she is an assertive girl, or maybe she actually fell for him on the first day, calling himself a sinful person. Alice admires him and says he looks wonderful. He leaves to meet Mashiro in the backyard of the school, where she has been waiting. He thanks her for waiting for him, as she is delighted to see him again. She thanks him for meeting her and saving her yesterday. She is about to say the reason behind her calling him, and Augur realizes it's just like the same scenario he saw in the dream, closes his eyes, and says he is ready, and to hit him with her feelings. But she instead shouts at him, asking him not to get involved with her anymore. He looks at her in shock as she says she will return the handkerchief. He is still confused and asks her what's wrong as she looked so happy the day before. But she yells that he is a misunderstanding bastard and runs away. He wonders what he did wrong as he offered her his handkerchief, which was a gentleman's act. He notices she ran to meet Luark, the same guy who was bullying her. He wonders if those guys are actually her friends, and his actions instead drove them away, which caused an opposite effect. He thinks that she might prefer bad boys over gentlemen. He states that women are hopeless, as Alice agrees and says she is a radical girl. They leave as Mashiro, standing behind a pillar, is crying, saying she is sorry. Augur and Alice go to the school cafeteria, where Augur is still seemingly disturbed by the sudden change of emotions in Mashiro. He wonders how he could redeem himself, and if there is anything he could do. Alice says she can't believe that Mashiro is into bad boys, but she still feels something strange about it, asking Augur if she was really friends with those bullies. Then why would she thank Augur for saving her? Augur stays calm, saying he will just wait and see what happens next rather than act on it. Alice is shocked to see Augur saying that they should wait, wondering if he is testing her and wants to see her prowess. She is determined that she will find some clue and present it to him. She starts following Mashiro closely. She sees her going inside the old school building. Mashiro gets inside, where the bullies are waiting for her, laughing that they could easily fool Augur, and he is naive and can't use magic. They tease Mashiro, saying they had quite a bit of fun when she called him a misunderstanding bastard. Mashiro, with regret in her eyes, says that they forced her to say those words. She starts crying, as Luark says he wants to see Augur cry next. He orders Mashiro to call him again so that they can beat him using magic. Even if Augur is stronger in taijutsu, he can't win against magic. Mashiro says she already did what they asked her to do, and that they promised they would not hurt him if she pushed him away. The only reason she said those words to Augur was to protect him from the magic attack of the bullies, but they are now breaking their promise. Of all the nobles who always disregarded her as a commoner, Augur was the only one who treated her well. She is adamant that she will not betray Augur again, but instead will protect him. Luark gets angry, yells at her for being cocky and starts abusing her, and grabs her by the collar. He pulls her closer forcefully, says he will embarrass her instead, and touches her thighs. She asks him to stop, and suddenly the door breaks. It's Augur and Alice who come barging in. Mashiro is glad to see Augur, as he states that now that he is there, he won't let anyone lay a finger on her. Luark shouts at him, asking what he is doing there and how he is okay after getting his heart broken by Mashiro. Augur, instead, asks if they really thought he would fall for a facade like that. Luark understands he saw through their act and also acted like a heartbroken lover to make them lower their guard. Augur recalls that some moments ago, when he was sitting at the cafeteria, Alice came to him with her camera, recording the conversation between Mashiro and Luark, and he learned the truth about Mashiro's real intention. Alice urged him to save Mashiro, as she was in danger. He, realizing he isn't actually a misunderstanding bastard, gets up on his feet cheerfully and comes to the old building to save Mashiro. Luark laughs and says that they have magic by their side and would burn him. He conjures up a magic power, and fire lights up around him. He throws his flame arrows at Augur, as Augur remains calm and keeps standing still despite Alice's warning. He just raises one finger as the flame arrow hits him. But to Luark's surprise, the arrows didn't have any effect on Augur. Augur smiles, asking if that's the extent of his abilities. Luark, still in disbelief, shouts at him that he shouldn't be standing after getting hit by magic, and he must have pulled some trick. Augur laughs, saying that it's true he doesn't have any magic aptitude, so he can't use magic, but he does have other options. Luark gets angry and throws his flame arrows again. And finally, Augur reveals his power. His power to delete his opponent's magic. Luark is shocked as Augur says that was the checkmate move. He grabs Luark by his collar and is ready to knock him out. But Luark, thinking that Augur will use another magic, faints in fear. He drops Luark, stating that he isn't even worth a punch. Meanwhile, Alice has tied the remaining two bullies. Mashiro is still wondering where Luark's magic went, as Augur explains that he developed a technique to delete his opponent's magic, to nullify them. He asks her if she is okay, putting his coat over her, as she apologizes to Augur for his mean words, and is thankful that she saved her yet again. He says what she did is unforgivable, and she should be punished. And her punishment is that she has to keep secret about his deleting powers. He asks her to stop crying, to forget about anyone who called her a commoner, and to come with him. That's her punishment. She readily agrees and hugs him, as he, in his thoughts, is happy that he is now too close to getting hold of those bosoms, and has taken a step forward in getting girlfriends. They walk out of the building as Augur declares his supremacy has just begun and laughs. Alice points out that she loves whenever he makes this boisterous laugh. A girl from the school building notices him, wondering if he's a new student, stating that the things will be more interesting. Notices that she gives off a completely different persona than in her photos and stares down to realize that even her bosoms are bigger than he saw in the photos. Rina says it's embarrassing for her to be stated like that, as Augur apologizes, saying he was mesmerized. Rina grabs his cheeks and makes him smile, saying he should smile when he says something like that. Mashiro is shocked to see Rina getting friendly with Augur and wonders what's wrong with her. Rina asks what they are doing there anyway during the class. Augur replies that the class was boring for them, so they came to practice on their own. Rina acts as if she is shocked, and asks them if they would like to take a practical course with her. Augur's eyes go wider in thinking that a course from an expert is not something one gets easily, even if someone pays a lot of money, and a course like this would be useful for his delete abilities. He agrees for the course, as Rina is delighted, but she says that it wouldn't be free as she would like to have him join the student council. Mashiro asks him what they should do, but Augur deduces everything inside his mind. He realizes that all of a sudden, both Lightning Strike Flown and her daughter Rina are getting acquainted with him so soon. This isn't a coincidence, and they must be planning a trap for him. He also realizes that Rihanna is pretending to be kind, but in reality, she is trying to make him her pawn. But he is much smarter than them and has decided he won't side with them. He refuses her offer, saying that he doesn't have any intention of working under a student and becoming anyone's subordinate. Rihanna smiles at him, asking if that's his answer. Rihanna and Augur stare at each other. Suddenly, he hears the voice of Alice coming running towards him. He totally forgot that he has Alice by his side too. Alice comes up and asks him why he left her behind. He apologizes, saying that he wanted to test something, but she does have experience with that kind of thing too. Rihanna wonders who this new person is as Alice turns around. Getting the air of intimation, Rihanna says she has got his answer, but he is welcome anytime if he changes his mind, as she will be waiting for him. She rushes back to her own room and stands in front of the mirror, thinking that she thought her fake bosoms could manipulate a man, while taking out the puffy padding from her chest. She realizes that they won't have any effect on him, because he is already surrounded by ladies with big bosoms. But she is determined that she will catch him next time. Back at the tower, he wonders why Rihanna gave up so easily. When Alice calls, she reminds him that he said he had the thought of testing magic, and asks him what he was going to test. He says that from the principal, he got to know that Mishiro is a dual magic caster, and he wanted to see her magic, but got interrupted by the student council president. Alice understands, and says she has the perfect place to let Mishiro use her magic. She takes them to an old building, saying that a friend of hers had been managing that orphanage when she was a commander. But recently the land has come under the threat by some people, and her friend requested that she drive those people away. She finds it the perfect opportunity to let Mishiro use her magic. Augur likes the sound of saving an orphanage, wondering if he can save the future workforce. Then they will owe him for his lifetime, and he will make them work. He admires Alice's quick thinking and asks Mishiro if she can do it. Mishiro says she does want to try. He states that they will head to the orphanage over the weekend, but Mishiro gets tired and lays down on Alice's lap. Augur asks about a place called Enivant. Alice says it's a city located outside the royal capital. She says it was a peaceful land, and it's just beside Walshua City, where the arena was. He wonders if the terrible public order of Walshua City had a negative impact on Enivant, which led to this incident. He looks around, wondering why someone would want that land. Suddenly, they hear the scream of a woman. The woman, a sister, is lying on the ground, begging for mercy from the thugs, as Alice tells Augur to help her. He gets ready, saying it's his time, and jumps to her rescue. He swiftly kicks at one of the thugs from behind, as they are all in shock that a kid is that strong to beat him. Augur thinks it would be easy for him to just ask what they want and solve the matter quickly. Before he could begin inquiring, Alice interrupted him. She looks at the thugs, asks them if they know who he is, and orders them to surrender. She continues to boast that the person in front of them is Augur Verret, the one who brings light, punishes evil, and dispels darkness. Augur asks her to stop, getting embarrassed. The thugs look at him with disgust as he wonders if they think Alice is joking. The sister turns out to be Alice's friend, who is glad to be saved by Augur. The thugs get ready to beat Augur, and they attack him with their swords. But Augur grabs one by the hand easily and starts beating them black and blue. Augur even stands on his head to kick the enemies down. Alice, meanwhile, ties around the knocked-down thugs. With all the thugs tied around, Augur looks at the sister, asking her if everything is okay. She lets them stay at the church for the night. She apologizes, saying that she couldn't offer much. She introduces herself as Mio, and she is the one who consulted Alice about the harassment towards the orphanage and the damage received. She thought that Augur would be like another nobleman, but he turned out to be a very caring person. He looks at Alice, asking her what she told her friend. But suddenly, they are interrupted by many voices. It's the kids from the orphanage who come running towards Alice, and one of them even accidentally calls her Chris. Augur looks at the kids with a wicked smile, counting the children, concluding that there are 10 of them. He is happy that he will have 10 workers in the future. Mio also tells them that they have all been instructed to address Chris as Alice. Augur, to show who has the upper hand between them, calls all the children to gather around. He raises his hand and introduces himself, saying that the kids are already his, and that they are under his protection, so they should be thankful to him. All children look at him frighteningly as Augur says to Alice that this is how she should introduce herself. But the kids start to make fun of him, saying he is weak. The kids say that Augur is just like them and isn't frail like other nobles. Mio pulls them away, apologizing to Augur for their behavior. He realizes that nobles are not well received by the children. The nun takes them outside to play as Augur tries to calm himself down. They get back to the tied-up thugs and ask them why they were targeting the orphanage. Their leader says they would rather die than speak. Alice draws her sword and is ready to stab him as the man gets scared and starts speaking. He says that they were ordered by someone named Alabin. Alice stares at them as Augur asks if anything is wrong. The leader begs to let them go, just as Alice demands that he also give her the address. She writes the address down and says they will attack the enemy headquarters the next day. Mio thanks her and also offers rewards to Augur. She offers some silver coins to Augur, but he refuses. Mio says she could gather more if it's not enough, and she could sell something, but he tells her again that he doesn't want any. Mio understands that she was wrong to offer some coins to a noble like him, and what she did was rude. The kids come back again with their toys and start playing around with Augur. Mio asks them to stop and apologizes. Augur grabs one of the kids, holds him high, and smiles. The kids gather around in joy, asking him to lift them up next. Augur turns around and says to Mio that she needs to feed the children and should use those silver coins wisely instead, like preparing dinner. Mio is teary-eyed while listening to Augur, as Alice says he is indeed a wonderful person. Mio agrees with her. He starts playing with the children as Mio states she hasn't seen the kids this much happier in a long time since the orphanage has been under attack. Later at night, Augur sees Alice lost in her thoughts and asks her if anything is wrong. She says she needs to tell him something about Alabin. Augur says he knew she had heard the name before. Alice says Alabin is a remnant from Walshua's arena. He remembers that before leaving the city, she did kill all the villains of that arena, and he asks her if someone escaped. She says she was sure she killed everyone but might have had an oversight, and Alabin must have had a day off on that day. She deduces that Alabin is most probably building a new arena in Enivant, as he has lost his previous place, and that's why he is targeting the neighborhood city. Alice hasn't fought Alabin before and doesn't know how powerful he might be. She notices Augur is disturbed and asks him what's bothering him. He says that it's their fault that the orphanage is under attack now. Mio has been kind to him, but she is under those circumstances because of him. His stomach hurts as he says becoming evil isn't supposed to be uncool, and he will need to settle the situation and restore his name. He makes the decision to crush Alabin the next day. He asks Alice to take a rest. He goes to his room, wishing that Mashiro recovers by the next day, as she has been sleeping since she arrived there. He lies down and falls deep asleep. But some moments later, he hears someone calling his name. He opens his eyes to see that it's Mio. He asks her if she needs anything as she starts to undress, asking him to make love to her. Augur is left stunned, wondering what he did that led her to do this. Augur, stunned, asks Mio, who is sitting above him, asking her what she is doing. She says that she knows it's improper, but she wants to know about love from him. She explains that she doesn't know anything about love, and she is supposed to teach the children about it. She was abandoned by her family at an early age and never received love from anyone. She, with tears in her eyes, states that if she herself doesn't understand love, she can't love and protect the children. She continues to say that false love will only lead to incidents like this, and asks him if he will show some compassion and teach her about love. Augur sits up and holds Mio, asking her to calm down and not throw away her purity. as all she wants is to distract herself from the insecurities around her. She starts to dress up as Augur turns around, thinking that he does understand Mio's reasoning, but can't respond to her demand. And also, he is into women with huge bosoms. He tells her that the time hasn't come yet for the answer she is seeking, and she will find it when the right moment comes. She accepts his words and leaves. After she leaves, he says to himself that she needs to calm down after the problem is solved. The next morning, they are ready and about to attack the enemy's place. He asks Mashiro if she is feeling okay now, and Mashiro replies that she is and apologizes for her last night's trouble. He asks Alice to go through their plan again, as Alice explains that they need to eliminate Alabin's group and then test Mashiro's power. Augur thinks that although he never thought of Mashiro as a fighter, if she is a dual magic caster, then she can handle the matter differently. He says to Mashiro that their enemy Alabin has a handful of underlings, and to test her magic, she will need to fight them alone, and he and Alice won't interfere. But he will help her if things don't turn out to be favorable. Mashiro accepts her mission, saying she will do her best. He wonders if her magic is truly exceptional, as Floan was talking about, and if it's really impressive. They reach Alabin's house, where Augur asks Alice to do as they have planned. Alice agrees and gets inside the house, where Alabin's people are dining. She says that she has heard that this group has been doing bad things at an event, led by Alabin. She says she is an old acquaintance of Alabin's. The men start laughing at her, saying that they are being threatened by a woman, and she might want to play with them before moving on to Alabin. She grabs the men, knocks them down one by one, and ties them around. A man who is busy drinking turns around to see what the fuss is about and recognizes her as Chris Ragnica. This man turns out to be Alabin, who asks her if she came to do something pleasurable with him. She says she didn't, but she came to crush him down. And also, she goes by the name Alice. With a mocking chuckle, Alabin claims that 3 kids came to battle him and his army. Alice yells at him to stop making fun of them as Mashiro brings her hands closer to her chest, making a cross, and uses her dual magic Frost Wind to freeze Alabin's army all at once. The men are stunned to see they can't move and frozen as Mashiro declares they can't escape from her Frost Wind. Augur is amazed to see her power, as she can control her ice and wind magic perfectly. He now understands that ordinary people won't be able to hold a candle to her. Mashiro asks Augur if she is amazing. Augur replies that it's beyond his expectations, but he asks her what stopped her from fighting against Luark. She says she didn't think of that then. But as they are busy talking, Alabin attacks Augur from behind, but he somehow manages to dodge it. Alabin laughs and says that he won't be able to keep up with his speed for long. Augur understands that Alabin is a speed type. He asks Mashiro to freeze Alabin's feet, which will give him a chance to defeat him. He declares to Alabin to be ready for their unison attack. But before she can use her magic, Alabin runs around her and tries to attack her from behind. But she senses that Alabin is about to attack her, so she turns around and freezes him. She says that even though he is fast, she can tell his location through the wind. But magic cast on a reflex only lasts for a few minutes. Alabin, using his super speed, breaks down the ice. She asks Augur if that move was good, and Augur appreciates her. He jumps and kicks Alabin in the stomach. Alabin falls down in pain. Mashiro wonders if it's over, as she can keep going. She turns around to see that Alice has already taken care of the remaining army, tying them up. She becomes jealous of her as Alabin, in disbelief, yells that he can't be defeated by a bunch of kids. He claims that he is the undefeated champion of Walshua's arena, and turns around to see a bottle of potion lying around. He drinks it, and within a flash of a second, he gets much stronger and bigger. The trio looks at him in shock, wondering what he drank, as Alabin has hulked up, maniacally laughing. Alabin shatters the bottle in his hand and laughs hysterically. Augur, who is standing in proximity to Alabin, gets a scratch on his face from the flying fragments of the bottle, which puts both Alice and Mashiro in a state of shock. Alice rushes towards Alabin with an intent to kill him, as Augur tries to stop her, saying that she can't kill him. He turns around to see Mashiro crying and asks her the reason. He understands that the cut on his face has made the two girls react like that. While Alice is away, recovering from a punch from Alban, Augur slowly steps forward, holds Alban by his hands, and throws him away, making him fly straight to the well outside his house. Augur turns around, fixing his arm, and asks the girls if they are satisfied now. Both girls gleefully smile. Alban, while knocked out, remembers how he never lost a fight in the arena, and was always declared the winner by the end of every fight. He was determined that he would never lose, but lately he has been slowly losing interest in fighting. He always wanted to fight someone stronger than him, and Augur's strength has proven to him that he has met his superior foe. Alban kneels down in front of Augur, tells him that he is impressed by his strength, and begs Augur to make him his subordinate. Augur, in his own thoughts, says that he doesn't want a male subordinate. Alice says that Augur will never accept a villain like him, who plots to build an arena. Suddenly, Augur strikes with an idea. He says that he will accept Alban as his subordinate, and will also allow her to build an arena, but that needs to be under his watch. Alice is shocked at his decision and questions it, as he explains that the arena where she was sent had a sloppy system, and that human trafficking was rampant because of that. But it will change if he starts managing it. He will make the arena acceptable to everyone, but in his mind, he says that building an arena will make him rich, and he was worried that Alice would object to it. But he convinced her easily, calling himself a genius. Alice, meanwhile, thinks that Augur is a precious person, as he kept Alban's wish and also showed concern about her. Alban thinks that the person in front of him isn't just strong, but also a good guy. Both Alice and Alban bow down to Augur, saying they will follow him for the rest of their lives. Augur declares that he will leave Alice behind. They get back to the church, where Mio is delighted to hear the news. Alice assures her that she can rest. Mio thanks her for her help. She prays that she is glad that she can continue to stay with the children. Augur approaches Mio, saying he wants to talk to her. The kids misunderstand the situation after seeing tears in her eyes, thinking that the noble made her cry and that all nobles are evil. The kids yell at him, asking him if he wants to take Mio's money away, as they are already poor. They also add that Mio is good at cooking but bad at saving. Mio gets embarrassed, asks the kids to be quiet, and apologizes to Augur as she says she raised them without love. The kids instead offer their toys to Augur, and crying, they say that they know nobles love treasure, so he can have all their treasures as they love Mio, and if he takes away Mio's happiness, they won't forgive him. Mio happily hugs the kid, saying that she isn't sad anyway. The kids are happy and cheerful as Mio turns around to say that she has found her answer. The feeling that makes her cry and laugh at the same time is called love, and maybe she has known it for a long time. He looks at her with a smile, saying it's good for her. He says to Alice that it's time to get back to the academy, and to Mio that he will be moving everyone along with Mio to the Verret property. Everyone is happy, as he says in his thoughts that he didn't forget about his objectives. One was to see Mashiro's magic, and the second was to secure his future labor work, making his path of evil stronger. He decides to prove housing and education to the kids and Mio in the Verret territory and orders Alban and others to gather villains to serve as warriors in the arena. Alice is happy that all villains are now going to be tributes for Augur, as Augur notices the kids have made a statue of Augur, honoring him and praying for his long life and good health. He believes that he is just one step closer to becoming an absolute villain. Back at the academy, everyone is greeting Karen, as the girls are going gaga over her, not just because she is the fiancée of the Prince Crown, but also because her demeanor is cool. The girls turn around to see that Augur has arrived, and Karen, who was enjoying the attention of the girls, suddenly becomes nervous, wonders what she should do, and runs away. Alice wonders if there was someone in the hallway, as Augur says he doesn't sense anyone hiding with any killing intention. A month passes by, and they spend their days living in the academy. One day Mashiro, wearing shorts and a tight shirt, approaches Augur and Alice. Augur is stunned and asks her why she is wearing that. She explains that it's physical education and magic practice training, so she has changed into that. Alice points out that's the summer dress and looks like she can easily move wearing it. Augur says Mashiro should not use her ice magic during the training and also tone down the power of her magic. She asks him why, and he replies that her magic is powerful, and if everyone knows about it, she will become a target. She says her family is poor, she feels bad for her parents, and she needs to get good grades and find a good job. Augur promises that she doesn't have to worry about that, as he will look after her. She looks at him adorably and says that kind of sneak attack is unfair. Suddenly, they are interrupted by Karen, who is listening to their conversation. Mashiro gets behind Augur as Karen says that it's not long since he came to the academy and already has 2 cute girls. Augur says it's rare for her to greet and asks if her father would mind if she is caught talking to him. Karen says it's just some light greetings and turns her gaze to Mashiro. She holds her hand and brings her closer, introducing herself and apologizing on behalf of the Bumbold family's activities towards her. Karen adds that President Milfonte has a message for them, asking them to feel free and have tea at the student council. Augur realizes that Rihanna hasn't given up on him yet. He asks if she has joined the council. Karen says she did because she wanted to help people. She asks him to join too, as she would be very glad, holding his hand. But she realizes she is letting her emotions out, and she says not her, but the president will be glad. He says that he has already told the president that he won't join the student council, and asks Karen to be more aware of herself, now that she is the crown prince's fiancée. Karen apologizes, saying that she hasn't lost her old habit, and leaves. Augur says he will be seeing her, which makes Karen blush, and she gets confused, wondering what she should do. The following day, Karen comes and sits beside him in the class, saying that they have the same class coincidentally, and she starts following him to the toilet and also to lunch. He wonders why she is approaching him, as she had never done that previously. Alice leaves as Augur asks her where she is going, and Mashiro says that she is going to the cafeteria's kitchen to cook them some food. He notices the Crown Prince Arnia is sitting in the cafeteria along with some girls. He says that he never expected the prince to have lunch in the cafeteria, as he thought that Arnia usually had lunch with Karen. Mashiro asks why Karen is cross-dressing as a male, as Augur says that he too thought about that. But he realized that her family only allows males to succeed, and that's why they are raising Karen as a man. Her engagement with the crown prince is decided by the king, so that's why the crown prince doesn't have any interest in Karen, allowing her to continue cross-dressing while he is getting quite close with the other girls. He notices the prince is getting fed by the girls, and he screams in frustration, saying that he hasn't gotten his own girlfriends, yet the crown prince did. He takes out a candy from his pocket, and Mashiro feeds him that. But he understands that males like the crown prince have their own kind of aura, and that's why girls follow him. But he has the cute Mashiro with him. Mashiro gets irritated at Arnia's style, says that Augur is a good-looking male too, but he won't dream of having such fun. Meanwhile, Alice is back with a hamburger from the kitchen. He notices that Mashiro is cuter when she gets angry out of jealousy. Suddenly, he realizes something. Karen is trying to flirt with him to make the crown prince jealous. He leaves, thinking that if that's what Karen has in mind, then he has something too, and asks Alice to wrap his share of the hamburger. Like, share, and subscribe to show some love. If this video does well, I'll release part 2. So let's see how much you want to see it. Till next time.